I wanna hear your voice. You should say all of the things you wanna say. You can be her right here today. I wanna hear your voice. Be free and tell your story.
Goddess, you made it. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to Goddesshood. We're not just a show, we're a collective. We believe that the healing of one contributes to the healing of all. On our show, you will hear stories and tips that will inspire you to live, love, laugh, and exist on freaking purpose. Let's live. I'm Thea, a podcast mentor dedicated to empowering women. At Goddesshood, we focus on helping women find and use their authentic voices through podcasting, fostering a deep connection with themselves and with other women. It is my pleasure to introduce Radisha Dixon, also known as Deesh Dixon. She is the author of No More Broken Records, 5 Tips to Change Your Tune and Transform Your Life, and Queens Don't Settle, a book of poems to empower women, both available on Amazon, and we'll throw those in the show notes too. Deesh holds an MBA from Strayer University and a bachelor's degree in mass communications from Virginia Commonwealth University. Deesh has served as a pageant judge, and her writing has been featured in prominent publications such as Essence Magazine, Bustle Entrepreneur, and Huffington Post. Okay, sis. She was also featured in Dr. Joe Vitale's The Secret Mirror and on the farewell show of Ayana, Fix My Life on the OWN network. Okay. Well, welcome to the call, Radisha.
Hey, Queen. Hey.
I read it and then I read it again and I was like, yes, okay.
Yalla.
Yeah, fix it.
Fix her life, honey. Oof.
Okay, so we're gonna ask some rapid fire fun questions for the audience to get to know you. And if you're listening and you want a chance to win a gift that helps you unlock more playfulness in your life, complete our questionnaire that's in the show notes to be entered into a drawing, and you can win something fun. Okay, so answer with your first mind. Don't get too in your head about this, okay? If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
Oh, to read minds, honey. Oh, honey, that the mind is a powerful thing, and if you can control a man's mind, honey, you control the world. So I would definitely want the superpower to be able to read minds.
I like that. Okay. I don't usually tell y'all what mine are, but I feel like I would want to tell you guys that. See, I would want to have 2. I would want to be able to read minds, and I would also want to be able to like teleport. So like if I hear somebody, thinking about me, I'll pop up. What's up?
Right? Okay.
I kind of like to have that. My grandma's always like, I was just talking about you. I'm like, here I am.
Exactly.
Okay. What is one childish thing you still do to this day?
One challenge?
Childish thing.
Childish. Ooh, good question. I feel like it might not be as big, but like I'm a big kid, and so I like, fruit snacks and, all those things, honey. Was it the cereal? Like, what did we eat back in the day? I think it was Kicks and Honeycomb and Fruit Loops.
Mm-hmm.
So,
What about Captain Crunch?
Yes, the berry crunch.
The berry crunch, yeah.
Yes, honey. So, that would be kind of a late night thing that, me and someone used to do that has passed away. But yeah, I'm all for that. But give me my fruit snacks, girl.
Okay, all right. I'm here for that. So I'll have fruit snacks when you come to visit. Just for you. Okay. So we're going to pivot a little bit because we're going to have like a really juicy episode today, and I'm really excited about it. So the question for the day is, are you willing to prioritize yourself even if it means starting over? Okay. Now, when we prepared this, we decided that we would choose poetry that spoke to us about this subject, because oftentimes you'll find, and I think this narrative is really pushed on women a lot because of the time clock and the like pressure to have children and the pressure to like just do all these things, be all these things, and never really just get to be, yourself. So we wanted to break this down because starting over isn't necessarily a bad thing. Starting over can be the difference between a life well lived and a life regretted, So
say that.
Yeah. So the poem that we're going to talk about is one that Deesh has actually written, And I just want to preface this with sometimes the breakdown is where you get a chance to rebuild and then you create this masterpiece,
Yeah.
which is kind of the direction we're going in for today. So I'm going to hand it over to you and let you take us into some soulful vibes. And I encourage everyone listening to listen with an open heart, with an open mind. Put your feet flat on the floor, like get into your meditation stance if you can. If you're driving, don't do that, but just really like be mindful in this moment. And so I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to you.
Ooh, I just one. You just said a mouthful. The difference between a life well lived and a life of regret. And I think that is important for people to remember and think about. There's a book I haven't read, but I am aware that it does exist, and it centers around conversations with dead people and conversations that things that they wish they would have done, and things they wish they would have said, and you'd be surprised. And just going through it, I haven't read it, but the author kind of talked about it, and to have experienced loss, unfortunately, in the way my family and I have, sort of back to back, it certainly gives you a different perspective, on life. And uh, I just wanted to at least touch on that, because a life well lived is exactly what I deserve, what you deserve, all of your listeners. It's what we deserve. And at some point, you have to make a choice. You have to make a choice that it's in your best interest. And sometimes that means that you might disappoint some people. And that's a hard thing for a lot of people, especially women, based on how we're conditioned to put everyone, before ourselves. It's kind of ingrained, I feel, to some degree with us, to really put ourselves on the back burner. But that's why I'm here, why you're here, to hopefully help, in continuing to break that cycle. But because of that, it's why a lot of women don't ever put themselves first. It's why they kind of live their life for others, and it's kind of like they're an afterthought to themselves, and that's really disheartening. Knowing the type of power that we have as women, knowing our worth and value, and the reality is this world would not be the same without women, right? We give birth, right?
Yeah.
We birth life, right? And so very important divine beings. And I just want, more women to hopefully wake up and decide, that one, it's not too late, and two, decide to actually do something for herself.
Yes.
So in my book, Queens Don't Settle. So the way that I have my book, set up is I have a queendom tip before each poem, and then the poem right after that. So the queendom tip for the masterpiece poem is: every day is a new day. Don't let your past dictate your future. Who you are today and who you are becoming is what matters. Walk with your head high. Affirm yourself. Rise up as the queen you are.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, masterpiece. I know you've been programmed to always fear the unknown. I know most of us have gifts and talents that have yet to be shown.
Mm.
I know sometimes you wonder why you're here, why you were born. I know many of us have been through so much. Some of us fall in the category of a woman scorned. When you look into the mirror, you are disappointed with what you see. You cry and tear yourself down, sometimes disgusted. You ask yourself, what happened to me?
Mm.
You've been broken, hurt, and abused after you trusted those closest to you. The stories are all the same, no matter your color, gender, or race. Ladies, it's time to reclaim your value. It's time to click erase. Everyone goes through struggle. Everyone experiences strife. What doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. Trust and believe no one has a perfect life. Learn to forgive those that hurt you so that you can take back your power. Let the past go and start to move forward. No more drowning in sorrow or cower. You are a beautiful child of God. No matter your past mistakes, have faith that it will all work out. With God's help, you will never break. You are strong, loving, and kind. You are blessed, and don't forget fine. There is nothing you can't do. But first, you have to believe. Believe in yourself and know you are worthy. You are the chief of your magnificent dreams. Take a stand for who you are. Stand in your truth and be in peace. No more bondage, no more limiting beliefs, just walking tall, head up with ease. You are not tainted. You are a masterpiece.
Mm. Okay. I was over here taking notes. I love this.
Thank you.
You know, the first part where before you kind of went fully into the poem where you're talking about, you know, being an afterthought. And you know, I was married at 22, now divorced, and definitely remember like going into marriage and feeling like an afterthought. And there were certain things that I was going through in my marriage, and I reached out to women who were of the same faith at the time as me. And I was reaching out to them for advice. A lot of them had been married longer than me. And one woman in particular, I thought she was my friend, and I realized she's not even a friend to herself. But she said to me, she said, you know, Thea, with a straight face, maybe you were meant to suffer so you could teach other women how to suffer in marriage, like with, you know, a spouse from a culture like yours. I was like, oh, so I signed up to be an afterthought. I signed up to be like a, you know, so when I heard that part, I was like, ooh, I was kind of transported back to that where, you know, women of a specific generation are expected to kind of just, you know, place their feelings on the back burner, their needs, their wants, their desires on the back burner and become an afterthought in the marriage or in the relationship or in their friendships. And it's unfortunate. It's sad, you know?
It is. It is. And you know, it's my belief that that's why I said it's ingrained. It's really ingrained. You know, I'm not going to get too much into patriarchy, but that is very heavily a part of it. You know, our society conditions women, you know, to make that kind of the pinnacle. You know, I wrote in the first book, the No More Broken Records book, how it's interesting how the little girls get the baby dolls and they get the playhouse and all of that. They don't give that to boys, right? They don't give them that. They don't say, oh, here, go build a house and play dad. They don't give them anything. It's only us that got that, right? And so from a young age, you're very much conditioning a girl with being a mom, being a wife, and taking care of a house. And so she grew, and then let's not forget the fairy tales, honey. We've got Cinderella and was it Beauty and the Beast, but these fairy tales about a Prince Charming. And so all of that conditioning, in any of that, did I once hear anything about a girl finding herself, living a life for her own, in any of that? It is completely about her taking care of a family, being a wife, being something for him. There's nothing in that that speaks to a woman, a young girl, figuring out her life, finding her identity, why she was put here on earth. Aside from that, I am not against marriage and motherhood. That is for the people that want to do that, right? However, I don't believe that that is the pinnacle of success for a woman. I just don't. You know, I mean, there are some women that can have kids, right? So then what do you say to her? Well, she's not worthy or she's not valuable because she can't have a baby, or people that, you know, women that don't want to get married. So she's not worthy or valuable because she doesn't want to get married. I mean, come on, it's just ridiculous. And so that's just not the pinnacle of womanhood or the epitome of success from my perspective for a woman. But I just say all that to say that it's very much conditioned. We've been conditioned with that from a very young age. And unless a woman sort of awakens or goes on some type of self-empowerment or a spiritual journey, some type of self-discovery, she's just unfortunately gonna fall and kind of unfortunately stay in that programming and live her life that way.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, it's really true. It's totally fine to talk about patriarchy on our show because we have a like sister shows, say what you need to say, and that's like a lot of the underlying themes there. So if you want to go there, we can go
Yeah.
there. Well, I feel like, part of that has been for us to not trust ourselves, and women, when we are empowered and when we are connected to ourselves and not trying to um force living like those who actually benefit from the patriarchy, we
Right.
tend to tap into our power much more frequently. And it's been hard, I will say, like pivoting away from doing things the way that everybody else does them and feeling kind of crazy when I'm like, I'm taking this month off of doing this thing, even though everybody says you should be doing it consistently. Like, it's not time right now. I'll plant those seeds and then launch them in the following month, So it's like,
Yeah.
it's been really, it's been a shift in that way of thinking.
It's just kind of like how they tell us, and at least with this part, I could say it's a little bit more universal, but as if they say this whole hustle culture and like as if rest is a reward. Rest is not a reward, honey. That is something that our body, the human body, needs to function, right? And so, no, like we shouldn't be just going, 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 and never ever taking a break. Now,
Mm-hmm.
especially as a woman, with women doing so much, and we have single moms out here. I mean, my God, you have to take a break at some point. There's no honor in pretty much working yourself to death into an early grave. There's no honor in that.
That's so true. I was wondering for the longest time how, like, once I started working from home, how it was that I even went to work, like, on my cycle, for instance. And last week I had my cycle, and I was just like, this is not for the weak. This is not for the
Yeah,
heart. I was like falling asleep in the middle of the day. I was struggling last week, and I was just like, how did I do this?
yeah.
And it's only so long that you keep up that kind of, um pace. Like I have no idea. I couldn't even tell you what I used to do.
Oh, your body will get you. Listen, and the thing that I wouldn't want and hope it doesn't happen to anyone uh, would be if you go like that, like your body might just shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if it shuts down when you're behind the wheel. You
Yeah.
see what I mean? Like no, that's it's not necessary. Rest is not a reward, ladies. It is a natural thing that we all need, and
Yes.
that self-care, a tip in the No More Broken Records book about centered around self-care and just making sure you're giving yourself something every day, some kind of hour. I don't care if it's 30 minutes, that's all you get, but there needs to be something you give yourself for yourself, right?
Mhm.
Every day. Listen, I like power naps, girl. I do power naps because there's just no way. And for me, that works. I know that doesn't work for some people, but power naps work for me.
Mhm.
Your body will shut down on you, and you don't want it to shut down on you in an inopportune place or time.
That's so true. That's so true. Oh my gosh. I remember falling asleep behind the wheel one time. And fortunately, it was like late enough. And this was when I was in California. I worked a job and I physically went to like an office to do business. And I would be there until like sometimes midnight, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And then, went back around, go to the gym at 4 o'clock in the morning. Like, it just like start the clock again. And I remember like I was on the 101 headed north back towards Redwood City. And I was
Um,
like starting to fall asleep at the wheel. It's like I can't, and so it was just it wasn't
mm-mm.
rewarding and nothing good came out of it, to be
It
honest. Like it
doesn't.
didn't last. Nothing lasting came out of that. So it was not sustainable.
It does not long term. I mean,
Mm.
are you going to have your best ideas come to you when you're like slumped over, tired, completely flat out, flattened out. No. So get the rest that you need, and don't let anyone guilt you into feeling like that's some reward. No, it's a natural part of the human body, and it's something that we need and you deserve.
Yeah. Okay, so let's pivot into a few of these other lines that you wrote. I know you're programmed to fear the unknown. Oh my gosh. So, can you tell us a little bit about like your own story and starting over and kind of some of the inspiration behind this piece that you created, Masterpiece?
All right, so let's see. Short story. Where do I start? Okay, so I will go from I lost someone who's a sister, and it just really knocked the wind out of me, to be honest. That's not something that you just get over. And then, unfortunately, mom, which for any parent, I just can't imagine having to deal with that. Her heartbreak, the heartbreak of that, caused her a year later to pass right after sister. So,
Wow.
prior to her passing, we had an uncle in the family, literally that passed like 2 months before sister passed, and then 2 years prior to him, I was actually getting ready to go to a national pageant, and she, my little cousin, ended up getting shot by her boyfriend right before the pageant, and so it just we've just had some losses back to back, and I would say grief has been my rock bottom. I think I have never experienced that kind of hurt and heartbreak, and the fact that I didn't we haven't really had a chance to breathe, honestly, because it's just kind of back to back, and I just actually this past weekend came back from another funeral. So in terms of starting over, that's kind of what prompted that, the need for hitting the reset button, hitting the refresh button in your life, right? Because I heard something someone said, and it makes sense to me now. And it's kind of the fact that there was a version of you, a version of me, a version of you, sort of pre-loss. And then now, along this journey, you're healing, you're growing, and you're evolving. And now this is a different version of you. So this is the version of you after losing your mom, right? This is the version of you after losing a sister. This is the version of you having just lost a grandmother, having lost a grandfather. Like, this is a different version of you. And so that prompted uh, clearly a need for something, because in that being my rock bottom, I think what naturally happens, grief kind of forces certain things to come up. It forces you to confront things that you have suppressed unknowingly, unconsciously, or subconsciously. And so a lot of things just kind of bubble to the surface, and now certain things are coming up. And for those of you that journal, if you don't, I highly recommend it. But for those of us that do journal, you start journaling and you see all these, and you go back and you read it, and you start to see all these things that have surfaced, and you're like, well, where did that come from? And okay. And so it forces that. Grief forces that. And now, with the truth manifesting, uh, because it's often what it is. It's the truth that manifests. It might have been repressed in you. People suppress things, but now it's at the surface. And so it's okay. What you've been doing up until now has not been working for you. Who you've been up until now has not been working. You've been a people pleaser. You have put everyone before yourself, and you're in this place in your life but you're not really where you want to be. You're not where you said you wanted to be, where you feel you should be by now. So what needs to change? What needs to happen? Because, you know, the people closest to you are no longer physically here with you. So the best way to honor them, of course, is, to live your best life and kind of go full out. So what needs to change? And here comes, well, I think you need to hit the reset button. I think you need to move away from the environment that you've been in all this time. I think you need to get away from the people you've been around all this time. So you need to be in a new environment. You need some new energies in the form of people. You need new. You need something different. And so prioritizing yourself, yes, prioritizing yourself very much looks like sometimes having the courage to start over and having the courage to possibly be disliked, having the courage to disappoint people that are not going to be okay with you just moving somewhere. But it's necessary, and there's so much growth. You're going to grow so much, especially if you do what I did, which was move to a city where you know nobody. You're forced to face yourself. And I think that is what people need. Listen, you need to face yourself. You need to do the inner work to heal. You need to be honest about things that have happened in your life, where you're at in your life. And you can't do that if you are lying to yourself and pretending like everything's okay, right? Your brain is not going to be able to give you solutions if you're not willing to be honest about your current reality. Okay. You are comfortable. A lot of you are comfortable, but that's also why you're not where you want to be, because you're comfortable. Sometimes you need to hit the refresh button. You need to hit the reset button. You might need to start over, and having the courage to put yourself first so you don't continue to repeat the same cycles, so you don't sound like a broken record, right, for the rest of your life. In order to do that, you're going to have to make a decision that's in your best interest for once. And as hard as that is, as challenging as that can be, it's still necessary. It's a necessary part of sort of your evolution or your soul's evolution, whatever is next for you. But that can't happen if you listen to other people and you just, continue to be how you've always been and do what you've always done. Okay. So that's kind of what prompted my reset button. Grief forced me to have to really look at my life and be like, how did I get here? And I think a lot of you need to ask yourself that question. How did I get here? How did you get here? Because you didn't just get here overnight. I mean, I'm very real and authentic, and I don't do delusion. Okay, I think sometimes you're either in denial or you're delusional. Okay, but listen, you need to be honest. How did I get here? And if you're honest and you look at your life and your patterns and the choices that you've made, all of that got you to where you're at. And so sometimes you need to do something different. And in order to do that, you're going to have to do things differently.
Preach, preacher. Listen, I'm so glad you're here because usually I'm the one giving tough love, but Radisha was like, y'all go get this tough love today. Listen, I appreciate it. It's interesting, something you said that I never really thought about. It was different versions of you pre-loss, and I lost my mom when I was 13. And so I don't really remember myself pre-loss, but then during that marriage, towards the end, my best friend passed away, and my best friend was only about 10 years older than me. So still very young. So she was probably in her 36, and I was 26 at the time. And that her passing was kind of like a trigger for me. I already was on my way out, but just seeing her not finishing things or not getting to the place that I knew she would have wanted to be in as far as romance, career, things like that. Like she got all the other stuff like the home and all that stuff down, but the things that I think really mattered to her, she never got to experience. And I was like, I'm still here and I'm going to sit here in this type of marriage, in this environment, knowing that like love really exists out there in a different way, and knowing that I don't have to go through these, and so that was definitely a trigger to make a different decision, when she passed away. So, I definitely think grief can be defining points in people's lives. And grief doesn't just have to be around loss of other human beings. Like grief is also a loss of like self. Grief is loss of job. Grief is loss of on many different levels. It's all relative to what you've actually experienced or been through in your life, Like I remember I was at a company where the company, I guess, had gone through layoffs for the first time, and people were grieving those layoffs so hard. And at first I was like feeling a little non-compassionate towards them because I'm like, it's a job. You get another one. Like,
Yeah.
You might be a little uncomfortable for a few, months or weeks, whatever it is, but you get another one. I can't get another friend or mom, But then I realized I was like, it's all relative to like someone else's like world and their experience level. That's the biggest set of loss that's ever happened to them. So, loss is relative. Like those are trigger points of making different decisions and moving forward and moving in a different way. But also you talked about that book about conversations with dead people.
Yes.
Listen, so I had this mentor that would say, the most wealthiest places on planet Earth are cemeteries and grave sites because of the fact that there's a lot of dreams unfulfilled living in those places. And like, you don't have to wait for grief for something major for you to say, you know what, like, I don't want to get to the end of my life and I'm introduced to who I was supposed to be and I don't measure up, and that would just be so painful to me because I was afraid to take a risk. I was afraid to like speak up or start over or push the reset or be judged by people for my decisions, when at the end of the day we have to be really happy with ourselves,
Yeah. Well, and going back to you bringing up the line in the poem about us being programmed, to fear the unknown. I mean, it's a fear-based society. That's what sells.
Yes.
I mean, that's what sells, honey. So, I mean, what would this world be if everyone actually did their work, right? And focused on themselves. Oh, this would be a different world, and certain people probably wouldn't be in power, right? So, no, they have to keep pushing more fear on you, and so people that don't have that level of awareness, they haven't risen in their consciousness yet,
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Yeah, that's so true. There's a book, and I know my audience is tired of me talking about this book, but there's a book. It's called, I don't know, maybe you'll be in the first, I don't know what episode or what order you'll hear this in, but you'll hear this book a lot. But the book is called The Courage to be Disliked. And
yes.
Okay, so
I haven't read it yet, but I was just going to ask you about that.
Okay, it's so good. And kind of they're talking about Alderian psychology within the book as a part of the major themes. And Alderian psychology basically states that like whatever happened in the past doesn't matter. And I know for some people that is really triggering and challenging, especially like, I've had a lot of trauma and dealt with a lot of things. However, I was like, what if like my past really just didn't matter and I just moved like that never, not that it never happened, but like doesn't inhibit me, like it doesn't prevent me from moving forward and prevent me from taking different decisions, right? And so it's really juicy because it's like focusing on what is your goal for trying to like prevent yourself from doing certain things or believing something different about yourself, you're gonna have to go on a wild ride with it because I know like some of us, we're not really trained to just be like, I'm just gonna switch my thinking. It's difficult. You have to like, you have to talk to yourself. You have to reprogram yourself for new things. So it's a good book, but I think you have to be open to a higher, I call it higher law thinking.
Sure.
When you can like, this doesn't negate what you've been through. And this is also possibly true at the same time, right? So yeah, it's a very yes and book. It's like the categorize this yes and.
Yeah. Interesting that you say that because I get like messages and sometimes I am in a place where I can write them down really quick, or at
Mm-hmm.
least if I can like come out of my trance, I can like grab my phone and record myself. And I swear your question that you just said about, well, what who was it for? I kid you not. Something that came up was in being comfortable, who are you accommodating? Who are you accommodating? If you're not making a decision in your best interest, doing something for yourself, living your best life, moving, to that other country or other state, taking that job, taking that promotion, right? Getting out of that relationship, right? Who are you accommodating? All this comfort, all this comfort, which is keeping you in this box and stuck and stagnant and unfulfilled. Who are you accommodating?
That's so good. So many people told me when I was like, I'm gonna move to Austin. They were like, but you haven't lived there before. And I was like, duh. Like, what if you don't like it? You only visit it once. I'm like, I'm never gonna get the full experience of what it's like to live somewhere unless I live there. And I told them, I was like, guess what? They were like, what? I was like, I know a secret. What's the secret? I could move
Right.
I could move back. Wow.
Right.
Like
Right.
so like mind transformational. They were like, oh yeah, I guess you could. I'm like, it's not, so I would have been, I guess, accommodating people that I thought, mattered, but they weren't paying my bills. They weren't, helping towards my livelihood every day. Like they love them, but they didn't matter in the grand scheme of like what my soul's need and my soul's
Exactly.
purpose was,
Exactly. Exactly. What does your
Mm.
soul need?
I want to call it this other line that you wrote. I was like, this is so good. No more bondage.
No more bondage. No more.
No more pain. She always pops into my head. Very explicit in my mind.
No more bondage. No more limiting beliefs. No
Mm-hmm.
more limiting beliefs. So I tend to, I'm not going to get spiritual. Well, I would say probably more religious. But what I would say, just to explain this, is when it comes to religion, I'll say, I just believe that based on certain people and how it's being preached,
Mm-hmm.
it's being done in a way that imprisons people as opposed to empowers them.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it should be to empower us, right? It should be to empower us. And so, no more limiting beliefs. Our limiting beliefs, they imprison us. They don't necessarily empower us. They don't empower us to be great. They don't help us necessarily in moving forward and being the best that we can be and necessarily moving towards becoming our best self or the highest expression of ourselves. And so, no more bondage. Who are you accommodating? Going back to simply asking yourself the question, how did I get here? And, what do I want? What do I want my life to look like, going forward? And what are the steps that I need to take? What's the action I need to take to get there? I definitely want to mention it's not something that happens overnight because I am not one of those people. You have some entrepreneurs out here trying to act like it's just rainbows and unicorns all the time. And it's not, okay? We need to be a little bit more realistic about that and timelines and being reasonable with our timelines. You're not going to get an idea on Monday, produce it on Tuesday, and be rich by Wednesday. It's not going to happen, okay? I just want to be real with you all. It takes time. And so simply at least starting with the self-awareness, becoming aware of how you got here. And then from there, you want to move into your clarity. Okay, well, I know I put these people first, or this is who I was accommodating, which clearly wasn't yourself. I was accommodating, my parents. I was accommodating my spouse, whoever it was. Okay, what do I want? Here's the clarity. This is what I want. This is what I would want my life to look like. What are the steps that I need to take? to get there. At least start moving in that direction, right? Um, and then you just have to like consistently work on yourself. Something I'm very, I would say, big on are affirmations. And I also believe it's helpful to do that in the mirror. I'm very much a fan of doing mirror work, hence working with Dr. Joe Vitale with the secret mirror, right? So I'm very much a fan of doing mirror work. And what I mean by that is if there are affirmations that you have, simply looking in the mirror. You look in the mirror when you brush your teeth. Well, most people have a mirror when they brush their teeth in the bathroom. And so when you're doing your affirmations, you're looking at yourself. There's something that happens when you speak to yourself. There's something on a deeper level that happens when you talk to yourself. And that's why people talk about the importance or how powerful positive self-talk is, because it matters. Because guess who's listening? You. You. And so I am very much a fan for affirmations, positive affirmations, and self-talk. That's something that's a part of my morning routine. And I'm human. There are some mornings I don't do it, but most of the time, I sort of do my pep talk in the morning after I do Mel Robbins. Don't know if you know her, but Mel Robbins, she's behind the high five. And so I give myself a high five in the mirror, honey. And then I just go right into giving myself my morning positive pep talk. And so I think that would be helpful for a lot of women if they at least just try and see how they feel. It definitely makes a difference.
It's awkward at first. Like I go into the bathroom because I work from home, so I'll like flirt with myself in the mirror. I'll be like,
Yes.
"Hey, girl."
Yes, honey. Listen, you're listening. You are listening.
Yeah.
You're looking at yourself. If you don't like you, how do you expect other people to like you?
Oh, say that again because they didn't hear you.
If you don't like you, if you don't like what you see looking back at you, if you don't honor what is looking back at you in the mirror, how can you expect other people to do that?
Okay, worship yourself like the goddess, empress, high
Thank
priestess,
you.
whoever, like you are. Okay.
Thank you. Feminine, divine, goddess, queen energy all day, honey. And that has nothing to do with being big or small or short or tall, no matter how many pounds it does, that has nothing to do with it. Goddess, queen here, and that's it.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
it.
That's it.
That's it, honey.
Okay, that's it. That's the
That's
template.
it. No more bondage. That's us and our negative self-talk and our negative perception of ourselves. No more bondage, no more limiting beliefs.
No
Just
more.
walking head up.
I feel like this is the perfect time because you talked about affirmations for us to transition into the be vibing segment of the show. It's like perfect timing. So this is the portion of the show where we leave you with your collective card for the week and a song from our Goddesshood playlist. So we pull from the deck Wisdom del Alma, 44 affirmation cards to activate your inner diosa. Diosa stands for goddess in Spanish. So I'm going to shuffle and then I'm going to ask you to pick a hand because that's how we do it over here. Okay. I'm going to split them in half. Sort of half. Okay. Left or right?
Izquierda.
Left. Okay. My Spanish is a little rusty. Okay. Ooh, okay. Are you ready?
Oh boy.
Okay. I crown myself in my confidence. And the back says, when I embrace the things I am proud of myself for, I shine in my confidence. That's a good one. It's so in alignment. Wait, but I crown myself. Queens don't settle. That's your brand.
Hello.
Come on.
Spirit knew what it was doing, honey.
Okay, always. All right. So the song this week is by India Ari, and it is Talk to Her. I picked this song because of these lyrics. When you talk to her like you want somebody to talk to your mama. Don't get smart with her. Have a heart-to-heart with her, just like you would with your daughter. Because everything you do or say, you got to live with it every day. She's somebody's baby. She's somebody's sister. She's somebody's mama. Now, in this song, she's talking to a man about how he treats women. However, I pulled a different meaning from it. When we're going through life, sometimes we have more grace for others than we do for ourselves. And I interpret these lyrics as self-talk. So when you talk to you, sis, talk to you like you would want somebody to talk to your mama. Don't get smart with her. Have a heart to heart with her, just like you would with your daughter. Have empathy for yourself on this journey because you are worthy of all of that.
Snap, snap, honey.
Snap, snap. We're just going to sit in that for a second.
Worthy of all of that and more.
Okay. Ooh, I crown myself in my confidence. I'm gonna be saying that one all week, okay? Okay, so do you have any wrap-up words for the audience?
You know your worth. Know your worth. Know your value. You
Mm-hmm.
are valuable. You are lovable because you exist. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. You shouldn't have to perform, put on a show for people. You being your authentic self, wholly, purely, fully authentic with you is what we need. And your people will love you as you are.
Mm. Thank you for tuning in. You've been listening to Goddesshood with Thea and Radisha. Don't forget to share, subscribe, and head to the show notes for some goodies. And remember to live, love, laugh, and exist on freaking purpose. Go live. Bye.
You should say all of the things you wanna say.